Hey brothers and sisters, this is to be continued 4 of my testimony. I hope you guys are enjoying this. It's a lot, but I'm trying my best. I'm doing it for hoping that I can help someone in Christ and come to Christ, and hoping that Jesus sees I'm trying to do my best. Okay, so continuing on, this is 4. So I was working at Goodwill, and I just continued to work at Goodwill, and I ended up, having still arguments with my dad and a lot, and it was just crazy and anxiety, and I just couldn't take hearing the stuff he was saying to me, giving me anxiety. So I ran out of the house one day, and he's like, "Take your towel," and he threw it at me, and I called, I think at the bowling alley. After we went out, I met one of his friends, Timmy. So I called Timmy, and I was like, "Can you just tell Doug I would like to live with him?" I explained everything that happened. He's like, "Yeah, I'll check with my roommate." And so he did, and it's weird because it was all ordained, God. It's I made the wrong decisions. I made the decisions, but God already knew it was gonna happen before it happens. He knows everything. So I ended up moving out with him, and Kayla drove me, and she's like, "You don't know the whole story." She was behind a lot of the stuff, and so and that is not out of resentment. God has spoken a lot of stuff to me about stuff she's doing, and she's behind it. And he's like, "There's more to it than you know, but to just do what you can to get your side out." So that's what I was doing. So that's what I'm doing. So after that, I got all my stuff, and she drove me over, and I lived with Doug, and I lived with him for 6 months. And it was just very weird. He said, "I just really want things to be exclusive." And he was nice to me at first, to be honest with you. He was very, very nice at first. But, the second week, he started getting really, miserable and weird. And it was just and, started going out with other girls and lying about it. It was just I'm not the kind that cares usually. I didn't even like him, but I was just trying to get a place to live. And honestly, that was wrong on my part, and I should not have done that at all. But God knew, and he forgives me, and he knew everything that was going to happen before it happened. And so when I lived there, I would be sending my dad these videos. I was like, "Do you hear how he's talking to me?" My dad didn't care really. He's like, "Well, I told you shouldn't have moved out," And so I lived there, and he checked with his roommate, and his roommate seemed nice, but he didn't seem like he wanted part of it. He seemed nice, but because of his girlfriend, or his wife, I'd say, it's his wife, that she was really the jealous type. So you know how those girls are when there's someone that's decent looking, attractive in front of you, and I'm not conceited, I'm just saying this, weird stuff happens to me like this all the time. And the guy wants to make the girl feel secure. He starts kissing her in front of her, or saying things, nice things and mean things to the other girl. I don't really know all about everything, but these things happen to me a lot, and other people I see it happens to other girls too. So you understand. I'm just being honest. So this stuff started happening, and she would get really jealous, and I was really nice to her. I actually liked her, and her son had a disease, but we went out to Chick-fil-A one time, and I was just telling her a little bit about me, and it just seemed a little weird how she thought I was into her husband, and I wasn't. I was just living there in the basement with Doug, and it just seemed a little weird that he lived in the basement, but I didn't want to judge. So we were just staying there, and I would go out with he would spend a lot of time with me, just like Jay did. And it's one night, this is I think when the weirdness started, or some of the weirdness. I was in the shower, and he says, "I'm a shapeshifter," and the door slammed, and I was like, "Are you sure?" And then things started getting weirder, and then this just is so long. I'm probably leaving bits and pieces out, but I'm trying not to. But if I do, forgive me, because I'm not trying to. It's just a long story and testimony. I'm trying my best. So that happened, and there's so many details intertwined with this. So after that, I just started thinking these weird things and looking them up because I didn't really believe it. And that's when I started reading about the fallen angels and Enoch and the book of Enoch. And there's so many hidden Bibles or stories in the Bible. And so then, he had a friend, Timmy and Ray. And I was like, Ray really likes me. And he was always like talking to me. And I was like, I like Ray. He's really funny because I'm really silly too and weird. But there is something about him being the same person. And that's where I'm still kind of confused. Because it's like, they have this thing called energy projective light. Where you see someone and they're not as they appear to be. But they're somebody else or they're angels. And I don't know if you've seen Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is a big piece to the Bible about, but not in the evil way, in the good way if you really pay attention to it. But how that one man was like representing the devil, and he was taking the girl Khaleesi into the little prison that she looked around her and everything looked nice, but it was all deep magic. It wasn't as it appeared to be, and reality was her husband died, and then he was like 5 different people at once, and he could be different people at once. That's kind of how Satan is. And so I don't want to say Doug was Satan, but you never know. And I feel like I did have an encounter with the devil, but I'm not just going to put that out there. So I'm just like saying, because there was weird stuff going on, how they pretended to be apostles, and he called him John. And then he had a friend, Mark. There's just so much to the story. So he, So Ray, back to that. Ray really liked me, and Doug got really mad at things that were going on, and I was really not interested in him at all, but I should have said something, so that was wrong on my part. But, later on, it just got so weird, and I met another man, and his name was Mark, and he was a 70-year-old man, and so my testimony is so weird. Okay, so I'm getting to the part how all this happened, but okay, so Mark had a wife named Beth, and they had a son named John, and John lived at home, and Mark had told me a little bit when we were sitting down, because we would go bowling together. Doug and all of us would go bowling together, and he was telling me how John was in the South Korea War, and he met the devil, and it hit him, and he had all this anxiety and had a panic attack, and then they said he developed schizophrenia. But I honestly do not believe he was crazy. I think there's more to it. I think that they were trying to bring back some of my memory, maybe, from things that I don't remember in my life or my other life, but and there is truth to reincarnation, and it is in the Bible, but God doesn't want us to focus on those things. That's why he makes it so clear to believe in Jesus, John 3:16, because it's just about Jesus. He doesn't want us to get consumed with the other things, but there is a lot of mysteries to the Bible, and there's a lot of truths to other things, many different things. Okay, so John said, or he had told me that John stayed at home because he flipped out and couldn't handle, seeing people get killed. And I understand that, because that can be very, very traumatic to see, people get killed every day in war. And then Mark was telling me how he freaked out and started having post-traumatic stress disorder and schizophrenia, and the doctor just says he's crazy. But I know he said that people, the government was behind it. And at first I was kind of looking at him like, this sounds a little weird. Is he okay? But now I know there's more truth to it. I always believed different things, but I never really understood everything. So then I started realizing, he's not crazy. He started saying that they're going to come arrest him at the home, and I didn't really get it. And then later on I started realizing, John, there's an Apostle John, and then Doug moved out with this old man who my dad said collected, he collected eggshells. He's like, why are you with the eggshell man? And, oh my word. And his name was John, and then Doug's middle name was John. Douglas John Harwood. And then And then it was like, and I'm not trying to put people out there, but I'm just trying to get the facts, because like there's a lot to this, and I ain't a cookie to be crumbled. Like, I get things firm and I don't give up. If you know someone like me, I'm a very stubborn person. Like, I don't give up. And like, even if I have like hard days and I'm just going along with, what's going on in the world, I still don't give up. Like, that can be used for good though, because I can use my stubbornness to get the truth. And so, but I feel like God, there's a story about that with Jacob and the angel, and he fights with Elohim, and he's really fighting with Jesus, but he wins, and he wins his inheritance. And so like, I feel like there's a lot of that to do with me, where I fight and I fight and I fight and I don't give up, and I'm just fighting to get the truth, and I win and I get the truth. And but Jesus has to be the one to give it to me when he comes. So, but there is more truth to that in like other lives and being someone in another life. And I honestly think like the Bible refers to different people, or to the same person with different names. And he's revealed to me so many different names. Like, he's revealed to me, I am daughter Zion, number 1, the bride of Christ, Zion. And I was like, well, how can there be so many brides? He's like, you are my beloved, my only bride. There's just many people that don't understand that. But he also said, with God all things are possible, and God can make it where in heaven things are just so different. You can have your own husband. Like, you can have Jesus can be everywhere at once. So you can have a piece of Jesus here, a piece of Jesus here, and it's hard to comprehend and fathom, but like, Jesus can be each and all of his true believers that he chooses to be part of the bride. They can have a piece of Jesus, because with God all things are possible. But he also said, you are my beloved. There's so many even pastors that preach on this stuff, and they don't understand, they don't get, that the story of the Bible. They preach, they try to understand, but they really don't interpret it. You have the gift. And he told me this, and he's like, you are my beloved, and they will see this. It says they will see when he returns to Zion. I am Zion. And there's other names like Israel, Zion has been confirmed. The Revelation 12 woman has been confirmed for me. There's been so many. Jacob was a big one. And I'm like, are these people I was in other lives? And like Eve, the mother of all the living? And he's like, there's a lot of mysteries that are too much for you to handle right now, but I can tell you, you have a big piece in this. And then he like told me, I love you so much, dear. You are my beloved. And like, he does talk to me. He's like, you are, and I like know it's him. He's like, you are my beloved, and this will be over very soon, and I will come back for you. And all the wicked will pay their punishment. The ones who come to me will be guests at the wedding. They're guests. They're family. And the true believers are guests. And then he picks different people that could be a part of the bride of Christ, that could have their piece of Jesus. But he said, I have a very important role for him. And I found favor with him. And he was like telling me this. I'm like, where's this coming from? And it is. And it was Jesus. And so back to, where was I at? Oh yeah, the names. So there's so many different mysteries to the Bible. So where was I at? I can't even remember. I do have a lot of memory problems, by the way. So like, this is a lot for me to process all of this, but Jesus is like slowly trying to give me information. Okay. So back to where I was like living with Doug. I moved out. I don't remember. I'll have to replay it, but anyway. And so I was living with Doug for a while, and I was just really mad. And I'll just go back to that part. Okay. And he was cheating on me and doing things, and I was like really weirdly obsessed. Like, that's not me to be obsessed. I'm a very independent person, but and I didn't even like him, but it was like something was weirdly going on. And I started looking into this stuff, and I started realizing like something's not right. Like, there's not, and after the whole shapeshifter thing, like something's not right. And I met Mark and John and the eggshell man. I call him the eggshell man, but he collected eggshells, and his name was John too. And like, I'm meeting all these Johns. And then God revealed there could be truth to that, but there's also truth where these demonic beings are pretending to be apostles. Like, it's just a lot, and it doesn't make sense to many people because they're out in the world living in this society. They don't get the whole picture, and I don't get the whole picture either, but I have a lot of pieces. It's like when you have a lot of pieces, you want to figure out the puzzle. And I'm like that. I'm a very stubborn person, so I'm not going to give up. I might like relax for a little bit, or do something good or be in the world, but I'm not going to give up. Like, I can tell you that right now. And that stubbornness can be used for good, because like God does say, Jacob gets it. So we'll see. So so I was living with him for a while, and after all this stuff happened, I just really couldn't take it, and I was like flipping out, going to hotels, taking cabs to hotels, and all this stuff was just too much. But I always knew like God was there. Like, I always knew that he was there and he was wanting me to come to him, but I wouldn't. And I like always had faith. I never gave up my faith. Like, I always had faith, but I was sinning and I wasn't living right. And I would be fornicating with these guys, and I was like, then I moved out with another one, which was Ray, for a while, because I couldn't handle my dad. I was really just trying to find a place to live, to be honest with you all, but I just couldn't, and I was just really frustrated, so I'm moving out with these guys. And then I moved with Steven, and there's a lot of weird things about a lot of more of this. I just don't want to get into too many details because there's so much there. But to be honest with you, God had spoken to me. They were fallen angels, and a lot of that is true, and that something about a sickness with me having vipers in my stomach. There's just a lot of weirdness, and it sounds weird, and it even sounds weird to me, but there's truths to it, and it's just a lot. So then, but I do want to tell you, I couldn't take it. So the last one I was with, I'm not going to get into the other ones because it's going to go on and on and on, and there's a lot there. But I can tell you, Kayla picks me up. I moved back with my dad for a while, and I got a job at Brookdale. I'll just give this. And so I started working with the elderly, and I really liked it. And a lot of the girls looked at me a little weird, and some of them were nice. But this woman, Margaret, like, she really had me up. Like, I could not take this. Like, and like, I still have, like, I got so mad because she would come in these rooms with me, and she would like claim to know God and believe in God, but like, she was really nasty to me. She always picked on me. She was like a 60-year-old woman, and as far as I knew her, and she's like, "Where's Christiane?" And she's like, "I'm Margaret." And it was just like, I'm like, what is wrong with this woman? And I wasn't trying to judge her, but she would not leave me alone. Like, she kept going to bother me. And even though I didn't know some of the stuff that I was doing, like, I'm sure I could figure it out. Like, that's how you learn. And she kept trying to tell me what to do. I'm like, woman, stop. Like, we're on the same level here, lady. Like, we are both RAs. And it was just like, started getting me upset. In my head, I was thinking this, but coming out of me, I wasn't. Like, I was just like, hey, Margaret. Like, I was just really nice. But, like, in my head, I was thinking all this stuff. And I didn't come out with it because it was making me laugh, but also making me angry. And this one day, I just, I guess I would say how I handle things is, I get a lot of pain built up and a lot of anger. And then I come out with it and start telling weird things, or disassociating, I would say. And started talking about stuff that sounds weird to other people, like aliens and stuff, but there's truths to it, and it's just people don't understand it. But that's how I get back, I guess, revenge, but it's really not revenge. And I shouldn't have done that. Like, I really shouldn't have done that. But, like, she would just really highly piss me off, and it's like she was doing it on purpose, but it seems like it was all part of a show. At the most convenient time, she would be coming in the rooms. And so one day I decided to play back with her, and I shouldn't have done that. And I was like, well, I got the evil spirit. And I don't want to say it, but I did to her. And she was she was like looking at me, and then I'm just like being weird. And God had revealed later on that there's a lot of truths to Margaret, and there's a lot of truths to what's going on about how, because there was a man at Brookdale, that's where I was at. He was 81, and he came into me. I came into his room to check on him, and then Margaret comes in, and he's like, get out, you don't, and then he was telling that to Margaret, but he was telling me, you're so sweet, did you just start working here? We're at 20 again. I'll try to get to 27 this time, hopefully it posts. But I'll get to number 5 video soon. Okay, so I just started working there, and he's like, did you start working here? I was like, yeah. And he's like, you're so sweet, you don't know so many things that have gone on, and you really don't understand, and I wish you well at this job. And he's like, they used to take us on ships and hold us hostage, and he was pointing to Margaret, and he's like, they held us captive. And I was like, I thought that was a little weird. And then Margaret walked out, and he was telling me this stuff when she walked out, and I went over to her, and I was like, he was telling this stuff about you, I don't understand. 3 days later, he ends up in the hospital, and he dies. It's like they're behind a lot of what's going on. The government, God told me Margaret was a lot behind it. They have people in South Africa that were God's chosen elect, God's chosen people, and their own people sent them away and held them captive. And this USA is Babylon, and it's like they lock us up and hold us captive here. But there's a lot of like truth to what's going on, and because they looked a little different, but they were jealous, and there's just a lot of stuff to it. But like it just like it was so convenient, and he died on my birthday is April 11th, and he died April 18th. And my mom always said she keeps seeing the number 181818, and he died on April 18th 2018, and it's like 1818. It was really weird. And then I started getting 18s on my receipts all the time. And I was just thinking, like, my grandfather liked 18 and 81, and was like, are you trying to speak to me, or is it the Lord? And then I do a research later on him, and his name's Bob Lamb, and I see that he was a native, and like there's so much research into historical history about how they have natives, and how it's like all history in school, but they mix it around. Satan takes what is taught in school and forms it into lies. It just says there's no truth in him. He mixes truth with lies. And so there's truths that the natives, I guess, I don't really know if that's true, if the natives were the true people, but they say they were true people of the Indians that were like pilgrims, and people like Christopher Columbus came in, and the Indians were nice to them, and they took their land. And I don't really know. There might be truths and lies mixed in with that, because Satan in this world, he gives us lies and truths mixed together. No one's going to know the full truth, because he mixes the truth with lies to try to confuse people. So I can say that is a legitimate fact, as the Bible says. But like going on to working there, I was just like, really, it just seemed a little weird. That was another sign. Then I got fired from there, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a very honest person, but I got fired from there, and I'm put this out there right now. Margaret, had told the staff that I had personal relationship with a resident when I did not at all, and I can tell you that honestly, like I did not. Like I was talking to this older man because he reminded me of my grandfather, and he was really sweet, and I was just being nice, and they said I could have broken a rule. I should not have done what I did, which I gave him my phone number because I wanted someone to talk to, and I felt like he was sweet. But the stuff they were saying about me was not true, and they were trying to purposely get me fired. And then because I had reported Margaret for a couple times, and they didn't do anything about it. And finally, they're like, some of the staff were saying she's been here in the business longer, she just transferred here, and so probably because I didn't work in the field long enough, that's why, and they just wanted to use something against me. So that's what they did, and I was just like, I was frustrated. I was like, I'm not gonna handle it in a bad way. I'm gonna walk out calmly, and I did what the Lord wanted me to do, and it's because He has a great purpose for me and a better calling. And like sometimes in life when things don't work out, you gotta pray about it, because God probably has something even bigger for you that you don't even realize, and that is definitely true for me. Here's my dog. But So, after that, I got a job at Zaxby's. I was working there for a while. And my sister is always very conceited. Like, I'm not putting her out there like that, but she's like, in a way where she's like, I'm not gonna work here because they're gross, or she'll make fun of them. And sometimes first of all, you shouldn't make fun of anybody. You should be like kind, and that's what I try to do. I strive to do that the best of my ability. Sometimes it's hard, but like, you gotta put yourself low, because it says when you put yourself low, God exalts you. He lifts you up. You have better rewards in heaven. And so I used to work at these places, like they weren't my favorite. Like, Zaxby's wasn't my favorite, but I did it. To make money, you do what you got to do. And so, like, when I was there and I needed it, and then all of a sudden I was like just talking to an old friend that lived here in Florida, and I was like, I wonder if I should go visit him. And I was not trying to live with people to get away from my dad all the time. Like, I was doing that, but it wasn't for that. And I had my own money. It was just, I just kind of wanted a friend. Like, I wanted someone there and someone to love me and give me attention. And then I realized, I have Jesus, and that's all I really need. This was later on, but before that, I had called or met somebody on Seeking Arrangements, and I went with him, met him, and he was like, he looks just like this guy that was at the bowling alley with Doug, Joey. And I was like, this has to be Joey. And then, I kind of ignored it. And I did think, because he kept staring at me, Joey was like just really staring at me weird in the bowling alley. But then it was like I saw something in Joey. It was really weird. It was like he connected with me in the eyes, like he saw the pain that I've been through. It's like, I know, I understand. That was a weird look, but I think it was deception. I'm not sure. And so then I met Justin on Seeking Arrangements, and it's like, I'm not going to put him in the middle with Stephen Ray, but there was also Jacob Mason, and he's the one that gave me the hint about Eve. Okay, Eve, like, that's how I know of Eve, the mother of the living of the Bible. Then the Revelation 12 signs started coming after that when I lived with Justin. The clock strike 12. That was even weirder. It's kind of like Cinderella, like how the clock strikes 12. I was living with Justin, and the clock strikes 12 on his clock, like, so many times. I'm like laughing now. Now I just realized that's like Cinderella, where you go back and be who you are when a clock strikes 12. But like, Revelation is 12. Like, God was showing me, like, I'm the woman from Revelations 12, and I didn't realize it completely. I thought it was silly. And also, by the way, in Hollywood, the government hides this stuff from you. There's a few elite members that know the story they put in The Wizard of Oz, Cinderella, Ariel, what else? Beauty and the Beast. And there's a lot of hidden truths to the Bible from those movies. So if you really pay close attention, you'll know that there's a lot of truths to that. Same with Cinderella. It's corrupt. There's a lot of corruption there, but like, there's truths to those movies about what's going on in our society, about the hidden Cinderella, the stepsisters that want her position but they can't have it, like the ones that help her, the fairy godmother. Like, there's so many truths. Now, they put it in a fantasy in like these movies, but there's truths to it. And then my favorite is Beauty and the Beast, how there's a spell and the love overcomes. It says, overcome evil with good, like your father. And so that's what I'm trying to strive best to do, because there's a lot of times I get angry, but I'm working on it, and God is definitely helping me. And so, where was that? So I moved out with Justin, and we're at 29. I'm going on to 5. I'm almost done. I promise. I'm almost done. We're going on to video 5.